Hi, welcome to On This Day in Tudor History with me, Claire Ridgway, author of several Tudor history books. Now today I'm going to be talking about Henry VIII and something that happened during his reign. For on this day in Tudor history, the 14th of May 1538, the French ambassador Louis de Perrot, Sieur de Castillon, wrote a dispatch regarding King Henry VIII having been dangerously ill. He wrote, "This king has had stopped one of the fistulas of his legs, and for 10 or 12 days the humours which had no outlet were like to have stifled him, so that he was some time without speaking, black in the face, and in great danger." In his book, The Last Days of Henry VIII, historian Robert Hutchinson explains that in today's modern medical terms, the king was suffering from a thrombosed vein in his leg, and dangerously a clot may have detached from this vein. 6 months later, in November 1538, Geoffrey Pole, brother of Cardinal Reginald Pole, commented on the king's leg problem during interrogations for alleged treason. Pole stated that the king had a sore leg that no poor man would be glad of, and that he should not live long for all his authority next to God. In that same autumn, courtier George Constantine commented to the Dean of Westbury on the king's leg problem, saying, "It grieveth me at heart to see his grace halt so much upon his sore leg." In March 1541, during King Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine Howard, Charles de Marillac, the French ambassador, wrote of the king suffering problems again with one of his legs, saying in one dispatch that this king's life was really thought to be in danger, not from the fever, but from the leg, which often troubles him because he is very stout and marvellously excessive in drinking and eating. And in another dispatch, one of his legs formerly opened and kept open to maintain his health, suddenly closed to his great alarm, for 5 or 6 years ago, in like case he thought to have died. Now 5 or 6 years previously would have been around 1535, 1536, but perhaps Marillac was remembering wrong and referring to the 1538 health scare when the king turned black in the face and was in great danger. In December 1546, the month prior to the king's death, the Privy Council informed Nicholas Wotton that the king lately, upon some grief of his leg, was entered into a fever. But he is now well rid of it, and we trust that he will be the better for it a great while. Of course, the king was actually dying, and he died on the 28th of January 1547. King Henry VIII had been plagued with leg problems for nearly 20 years at the time of his death. In 1528, physician Thomas Vicary was called for to cure the king of a sore leg. We don't know the cause of the problem, whether it was a sporting accident like the year before when he'd hurt his foot playing tennis, or whether this was the start of his long-term problem with leg ulcers. Whatever it was, Vicary was able to help the king, something which led to his advancement as sergeant surgeon to the royal household. But in April 1537, John Hussey wrote to Lord Lisle of how the king was suffering with his leg once more, reporting that the king goes seldom abroad because his leg is something sore. And in June 1537, the king confessed to the Duke of Norfolk that he'd postponed his trip to York because of his health, writing, "To be frank with you, which you must keep to yourself, a humour has fallen into our legs, and our physicians advise us not to go far in the heat of the day, even for this reason only." Perhaps the king's earlier leg problem had reared its ugly head following an injury from his January 1536 jousting accident. We just don't know. His sore leg clearly affected his mobility, and this combined with his jousting accident of 1536, which reminded him of his mortality, led to him giving up his beloved sport. Eating the same amount but giving up his usual sports led to him gaining weight, which must have exacerbated his leg and mobility problems. But what caused his leg ulcers? The theories include syphilis, which was debunked when the king's medical expenses and accounts were studied and did not include mercury, which was the standard treatment for syphilis at the time. Other theories include osteomyelitis, not sure how you actually pronounce that, myelitis, an infection of the bone, perhaps caused by an untreated fracture, deep vein thrombosis as a result of his injuries and immobility, and ulceration caused by severe venous hypertension. Deep vein thrombosis caused by the wearing of tight garters on his leg is another one. Venous ulceration caused by vascular disease, which in turn could have been caused by type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol, and hypertension. Whatever the cause, these leg ulcers would have been itchy, painful, and swollen, and would also have produced a foul-smelling discharge, which must have been awful for the king, as well as for those near him. I'm sure the pain and the frustration must have affected the king's mood. Being in constant pain, being conscious of the fact that you smell awful, and being prevented from things you love doing like sports and hunting is bound to make you grumpy. Perhaps this pain was one factor in the king's tyranny. What do you think? I'd love to know, so do leave a comment. Also on this day in history, the 14th of May 1635, Helena Gorge, née Snakenborg, Lady Gorge, was buried in Salisbury Cathedral. But who was this lady? And how did a Swedish royal maid of honour end up being buried in England? Well, you can find out in last year's video, which I'll give you a link to. Also on this day in 1536, while her predecessor and former mistress was in the Tower of London waiting for her trial, Jane Seymour was moved to be closer to the king and was treated like a queen. Find out more in the 14th of May 1536 video, which I'll give you a link to too. You can subscribe to this channel by clicking around about there. You can hit the bell to be notified as these videos go live. And you can, of course, leave a comment and give me a like. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.